kind of strength no government can take from you, no failure can diminish, no betrayal can undo, and no storm can overturn. It does not come from wealth, titles, or applause. It is not granted by society, nor dependent on status. This strength rests within you, sometimes hidden, but never gone. It waits patiently, beneath your habits, your reactions, your thoughts. The Stoics called it the ruling reason, the directing mind. It is the ability to choose how you respond to life, the steady hand in chaos, the still center in turbulence. And from that choice flows your freedom, your resilience, your courage, and your clarity. This power does not announce itself with noise. It whispers in quiet moments. It appears in each decision. It stands behind every action and asks one simple question. Will you use me? To use it is to stop outsourcing your strength, to reclaim the authority you may have given away, to fear, to doubt, to impulse, and to the endless noise of the world. The Stoics were not extraordinary beings. They were ordinary people who trained themselves to remember their strength each day. They understood that real power is not what you hold over others, but what you master within yourself. In a world chasing control, they turned to self-control. In a culture desperate for approval, they looked inward, to the place that is already whole. Centuries before science confirmed it, they knew the most decisive force in your life is not your circumstances, but your mindset, not what happens to you, but how you meet it. And in that, your power is limitless, not because you control everything, but because you control what matters most, your focus, your effort, your values, your voice. This is where your strength lives. What follows is not theory, but a mirror, a reminder, a call to awaken what has always been yours, to return not to something new, but to who you were before the world taught you to forget. So we begin. Chapter 1. The Domain of Power. The first principle of Stoicism is to draw a line, a clear line between what is within your control and what is not. Epictetus, once a slave and later a philosopher, opened his Enchiridion with this very truth. There are things within our power, our thoughts, our actions, our desires, our aversions. And there are things forever beyond it, the behavior of others, the weather, the past, and the inevitable course of life. To waste energy on what you cannot command is not only unwise, it is disempowering, like trying to sail a boat by shouting at the wind, hoping it bends to your voice. Most people, without noticing, spend their days wrestling with things they cannot touch. They complain about circumstances, gossip about others, or fixate on outcomes beyond their reach. For a moment, it feels like relief, like pressure escaping a valve. But in truth, it drains energy and gives nothing back. It is the illusion of action, noise in place of impact. It is movement without momentum, frustration disguised as control. We rage at traffic, we replay someone's rudeness, we fill our minds with what they said, what they didn't say, what we cannot change. We revisit old arguments and disappointments, scratching at wounds as if irritation could make them heal. And so days slip away, months, even years. Energy is spent in realms we were never meant to govern. Attention is surrendered to the past, to illusions of control. This is how strength leaks quietly away, how sovereignty is given up without notice, and peace dissolves without protest. Yet the truth remains. Our power has not disappeared. It has only been misplaced. Our clarity has not died. It has only been buried beneath distraction and noise, the world's urgency, its chaos, its storms. These invite us to forget ourselves. The Stoic refuses. The Stoic remembers. They gather their attention as if reclaiming a sword buried in stone. Life will always send winds of change and resistance. Storms will rise, expectations will fail, people will disappoint, plans will collapse. None of this can be commanded, but the sails can still be set. The hand can be trained to steady the rudder. The course can be adjusted with calm and precision. This is the work of the Stoic, not to curse the storm, but to learn from it, not to take misfortune as personal, but as instruction. Every gust of wind becomes a teacher. Every unexpected current, an invitation to grow patience, adaptability, and presence. Where others see resistance, the Stoic sees refinement. Where others resist reality, the Stoic learns to move with it. They do not beg for calmer seas. They do not demand a softer world. Instead, they ask themselves, what strength can I build here? They seek virtue, not validation, harmony, not control. This is not weakness nor resignation. It is the fiercest freedom. For the Stoic is never diminished by challenge. They are sharpened by it. The Stoic does not collapse under stress. They refine. Pressure makes them clearer, steadier, more deliberate. The noise outside is met by the order within. They return to the only place where power truly resides, the self. And that is the beginning of strength, refusing to give it away, no matter the circumstance. Each time anger rises over what cannot be changed, power slips into chaos. Each time we try to bend others to our will, we abandon the one person we were entrusted to lead, ourselves. To attempt to rule the world without ruling the self is like building a castle on sand. It may look impressive for a season, but it will not endure. The foundation is missing. Your true domain is your own mind. Your thoughts, your responses, your choices. These are the levers of power. This is the seat of your empire. And unlike worldly kingdoms, it expands the more faithfully you govern it. The more aware you become of your thoughts, the more deliberate your actions. The more intentional your responses, the steadier your hand on the course of your life. Discipline strengthens it. Wisdom steadies it. Intention protects it. Presence keeps it alive. Focus secures it like a fortress. This is the one realm in which you already hold kingship. And when you learn to lead yourself with clarity and honor, the storms may shake the world, but your strength will stand. It will not merely endure, it will shine. And in that quiet radiance, others may find their own path. Not because you controlled them, but because you showed what self-mastery looks like. True power is not dominance. True power is direction. And when that direction begins within, it inevitably shapes the world around you. Chapter 2. Perception is Power. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are pained by an external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your judgment about it, and it is in your power to wipe out that judgment." What a radical reminder. The world does not disturb you. Your interpretation does. The power is not in the event. It is in your response. Pain, fear, shame, frustration. These are not automatic. They are not inevitabilities. They are the result of perception. This does not mean you must suppress what you feel, nor deceive yourself. It means you are invited to question the stories beneath your emotions, the narratives you may have carried unquestioned for years. When someone insults you, do you instantly assume they have struck your worth? Or do you pause long enough to notice that their words may reveal more about their own pain than about your value? Through what lens are you looking? One you have chosen, or one that was handed down to you? And if it was inherited, can you examine its cracks, its assumptions, and perhaps exchange it for something truer, something that strengthens rather than diminishes you? The Stoics understood Wisdom begins with reframing before reacting. They taught us to examine the lens before we judge the scene. Perception is a filter, and you are free to choose which one you see through. You can train yourself to notice what lies within your control, to expect hardship rather than resent it, to welcome resistance as a teacher, to separate fact from interpretation. Ask yourself, what story am I telling right now? Does it rest on truth or on habit? Does it bring me peace or steal it from me? You are not bound to believe every thought you think, especially those shaped by fear, pride, or old wounds. Perception is not fixed. It is a stance of the mind. It can be trained, conditioned, strengthened, just like a muscle. Through repetition, through intention, through practice. To challenge perception is to reclaim the mind, to create space between what happens and how you answer it, to place values above moods, to refuse to let a passing feeling rewrite the story of who you are. You are not what you feel in a moment. You are what you choose again and again to believe and embody. Each day, life offers countless opportunities to interpret events. Each interpretation becomes a brick in the architecture of your mind. Together they build your worldview, your sense of self, the atmosphere of your inner life. So look not only at what you see, but at how you see it. What assumptions shape your view? What do you gain by holding them? What might open if you let them go? This is not an erasure of reality. It is a reshaping of your relationship to it, a movement from unconscious reaction to conscious choice, a way of engaging the world through a lens you have deliberately crafted, not one passively inherited. In this way, you begin to see with clarity, not just with comfort. For comfort often hides in illusions, that life should unfold according to your wishes, that others should bend to your will, that struggle is unfair. Clarity, by contrast, sees what is. It accepts reality without yielding sovereignty to it. Clarity is courage dressed in awareness. And with clarity, you reclaim authorship of the story unfolding in your mind. No longer bound to narratives of fear or doubt, you begin to write in the language of reason, resilience, and truth. You are not merely the reader of your mind story. You are its author. You are the author of your mind story, the writer, the editor, the publisher, and that recognition is the beginning of peace, not the fragile kind that depends on approval or circumstance, but the kind that is born within. This peace does not rely on the opinions of others. It does not rest on stability in the world. It is built on truth, on self-awareness, on disciplined thought. It holds firm in the face of hardship because it was forged through hardship. It is the peace of one who has chosen to lead their own mind. This peace is not fantasy. It does not require the world to fall silent, because it has already cultivated silence within. It is the kind of calm that allows you to walk through chaos without becoming chaotic, the kind that strengthens each time you nourish it with reason and with courage. Like a muscle, peace grows through deliberate practice, through chosen perception, through the decision to remain grounded no matter the storm. Chapter 3. Obstacles into opportunity. If you have walked with Stoicism, you have likely heard this reminder. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in a way becomes the way. Marcus Aurelius wrote this not as poetry, but as practice, a strategy for the mind, a compass for daily life. Stoicism does not pretend difficulty is easy. It does not deny pain. What it does is redefine them. Hardship is not the end of the path. it is the path. Disappointment is not a verdict, a failure. It is an invitation to grow. The obstacle is not merely something to endure. It is the catalyst that shapes you. Setback is not a punishment. It is a summons to character. Life does not challenge you to break you, but to reveal you, to stretch you, to draw out of you what ease and comfort never could. You are not the victim of your struggles. You are the expression of how you meet them. Each response is a step in your own becoming. Each decision under pressure is a declaration of who you are. Each time you rise, you redefine strength, not by avoiding resistance, but by moving through it. The Stoic does not see obstacles as interruptions, but as part of the training ground of life. Each delay, each betrayal, each frustration becomes a classroom for virtue, a space to practice strength, to put wisdom into action, to turn principle into lived reality. Every hardship is a weight. You can let it press you down, or you can rise by pushing against it. Just as the body is strengthened through resistance, the soul is fortified through challenge. What first appears as burden often conceals the blueprint for growth. What feels like pressure often hides potential. Every trial becomes an invitation to practice the virtues: courage, temperance, justice, wisdom. These are not abstract ideals. They come alive only when tested. They are revealed only when chosen over the easier path. Without adversity, there is no strength. Without resistance, there is no reason to awaken the deeper parts of ourselves. And once awakened, these capacities do not return to sleep. They become compass and anchor. Obstacles are not detours. They are the way forward. Each difficulty, each resistance, each unplanned turn is part of the curriculum of becoming. To struggle well is to live well. Not simply to survive hardship, but to be shaped by it into someone steadier, more capable, more composed than before. Every challenge, however unwanted, becomes a forge for the soul. The Stoic does not ask for life to be easier. They ask for the strength to meet it. They ask for resilience instead of escape, wisdom instead of certainty, strength instead of shelter. They cultivate a mind that remains steady, a spirit that stands upright, a posture that does not collapse under pressure, but grows straighter in its presence. They do not wish away problems, because problems are not proof of misfortune. They are invitations to grow. The Stoic steps into them not because the struggle is pleasant, but because the struggle refines. They know true power is not in what happens, but in who they become because of it. The storm does not diminish them. It sharpens their vision, clarifies their values, burns away illusion, and calls truth to the surface. They welcome the test, not for the pain, but for the transformation it makes possible. For comfort rarely builds character, but adversity often does when faced with the right mind. And in that transformation is freedom. Freedom from the illusion of control. Freedom from dependence on outcomes. Freedom from weakness disguised as ease. The obstacle was never there to stop you. It was always there to strengthen you. The obstacle was never punishment. It was preparation, a passage into growth, the moment when the old self was tested and the new self began to emerge. The fire you endured did not scar you. It refined you. You do not rise in spite of hardship. You rise through it. That is the promise of Stoicism, to be transformed, not defeated by trial. That is your power, and it cannot be taken from you. Chapter 4. The Discipline of Choice. Power is not found in intensity. It is found in consistency. not in grand gestures, but in quiet, disciplined habits. True strength rarely arrives with noise or applause. It takes form silently, in steady decisions, in the choices made each day. The Stoics were not driven by impulse. They were students of self-mastery. They knew that the strongest muscle is the will, and like a flame, it must be guarded and trained daily. Left untended, even the strongest intentions fade, which is why discipline begins with choice. Not extraordinary choices, but ordinary ones. Do you rise when the alarm sounds, even when no one would judge you for staying in bed? Do you choose silence over gossip, patience over impulse, truth over convenience? Do you keep promises you've made to yourself when they are no longer easy, when no one is watching, when the temptation to quit whispers softly? These are the hidden battlegrounds of discipline, the quiet tests that prepare you for louder trials. Strength is not forged in the crisis, it is revealed there. It is built long before in the ordinary hours, when repetition carves it quietly into character. When you repeat the right action, unseen, uncelebrated, you become the kind of person who can stand steady when everything else is shaking. You rehearse stability. You practice strength. The Stoic does not act with purpose once. They act with purpose daily, not only when it is convenient or inspiring, but especially when it is not, when it is tiring, when it feels unrewarding, when cutting corners would be easier. They understand that greatness is not born in moments of ease, but in the persistence that continues unseen. Seneca wrote, "Most powerful is he who has himself in his own power." The true Stoic is not ruled by hunger or laziness or ego. They are ruled by reason, not abstract reason, but reason tested, embodied, and practiced until it becomes instinct. And this is not achieved by theory alone. It must be rehearsed again and again, in small decisions that seem unremarkable but shape the soul. While others chase comfort, the Stoic seeks alignment. They train the inner voice to speak with clarity instead of confusion, with calm instead of panic. They build the reflex to choose what is right over what is easy, so often, so consistently, that virtue becomes their natural compass. Their strength is not an accident. It is deliberate, brick by brick, decision by decision, day by day. Discipline becomes their declaration of sovereignty, the quiet act of planting a flag in the soil of life and saying, "I am responsible. I will lead myself. I will steer this course. I do not hand my outcomes to chance or complaint." Discipline may not appear glamorous, but it is always powerful. Each time you resist distraction, you honor your own strength. Each time you choose intention, you strengthen your foundation. You do not drift aimlessly, you steer. You do not simply react, you respond. You are not carried, you decide. In this way, you become the guardian of your time, the keeper of your peace, the builder of your strength, unshakable, not by luck, but by choice. Identity is not built in an instant, but through repetition, through awareness, through effort, and in time, those choices settle into something steady, strength. That strength becomes your foundation. That foundation becomes your freedom, and that freedom becomes your legacy. A life shaped not by fortune, but by self-leadership. Chapter 5. Silence is strength. In a world that rushes to speak, silence holds power. In a culture quick to react, restraint is strength. Most seek to be heard, even when they have nothing to say. The Stoic sees differently. They understand the weight of words and the cost of noise. To them, silence is not emptiness. It is presence. carried with discipline. They do not need to argue to prove a point, nor retaliate to protect an ego. They have learned the art of holding their tongue and guarding their peace. A sharp word may feel like power, but often it reveals inner disorder. When emotions rise, the untrained shout. They lash out to release tension, but lose clarity in the process. They become prisoners of their impulses. The wise pause. They breathe. They create space between what is felt and how they respond. That space is sacred. It is where freedom lives. The Stoic feels anger, but does not become it. They feel insult, but do not surrender dignity to defend themselves. Silence is not weakness. It is discipline. It is the choice to conserve strength, to spend energy only where it serves what is higher. They learn to wait, to observe the urge without obeying it, to delay the response until reason is ready, and when they do speak, their words carry weight, not as explosions, but as instruments precise, measured, effective. How many regrets come from words spoken in haste? How many bridges burned, relationships fractured, hearts wounded by a mouth moving faster than the mind? Now think of the quiet strength it takes to stay still when you want to lash out. To hold silence when every part of you wants to release noise. That is not weakness. It is mastery. Real power is not simply the ability to act. It is the wisdom to decide when not to. To hold fire in your hand and choose not to throw it. Your energy is sacred. Your peace is an asset. It fuels clarity, creativity, and endurance. When guarded, it amplifies everything else. When squandered, it leaves you wandering. With peace, you build. With peace, you endure storms and remain whole. With inner stillness, you do more than survive. You begin to see, to plan, to act with clarity. That stillness must be protected as a throne is guarded, as a flame is shielded from the wind. Guard it with awareness, with intention, with care. Nothing is allowed in unless it serves your purpose. Nothing remains unless it strengthens your path. Not every insult deserves a response. Not every disagreement deserves your attention. Not every invitation to conflict deserves acceptance. To decline is not weakness. It is wisdom. When you know what you stand for, distractions lose their pull. The Stoic governs themselves first, and because of this, they rarely need to govern others. Their very presence carries order. They do not need to prove authority. It radiates quietly through composure. Restraint speaks more powerfully than retaliation ever could. Silence becomes a boundary, a signal, a form of strength. It is not indifference. It is sovereignty. It is not passivity. It is control. Train yourself to listen before reacting, to observe before assuming, to wait until emotion settles and wisdom has the floor. Stand as a mountain in a storm, unshaken, steady, enduring. This is not mere silence, it is discipline, the high ground of character, the elegance of restraint, the grace of self-possession. In such stillness, there is a rare kind of power, one that cannot be given and cannot be taken away, a power earned through mastery of self. Chapter 6. Control the inner voice. The most important conversations you will ever have are the ones no one hears. The silent dialogues between fear and courage, between doubt and resolve, between weakness and strength. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself, not for the world, but to guide his own mind. For the inner voice is not always an ally. At times it is your fiercest adversary, the critic, the judge, the whisper that says you cannot endure. Left untrained, it binds you. but refined. It becomes your compass. That voice may echo old wounds, repeating doubts that were never yours to begin with. It may disguise fear as truth or shame as honesty. You must not accept every word it speaks. You must train it, guide it, discipline it until it serves you, not rules you. Speak to yourself with clarity, not cruelty, with direction, not despair, with discipline, not doubt. The Stoic does not silence the voice. They strengthen it. They reshape it, refine it, tune it like an instrument until it speaks with courage and steadiness. When fear rises, they ask, "Is this within my control?" When shame appears, they ask, "Does this help me grow?" When doubt whispers, they ask, "Is this truth or only noise?" The voice is not ignored, it is trained, and through that training, it becomes a companion, not a captor. The inner voice does not get the keys to your life. You allow it a seat, but not the steering wheel. And with time, that voice begins to change. It softens, it strengthens, it becomes a mirror rather than a megaphone. It evolves from critic to coach, from saboteur to source of guidance, from obstacle to compass, from storm to signal. It stops issuing ultimatums and begins offering instructions. It stops punishing and starts pointing the way. You are not powerless because the voice is loud. You are powerful when you pause, question, reframe, and choose direction rather than obedience. Control your inner dialogue, and you control the course of your life. You shape the momentum of your actions, the meaning of your moments. The story you tell yourself becomes the life you live. It becomes your choices, your relationships, your path. Make sure it is a story worthy of your strength, a story only the strongest version of yourself could tell. Chapter 7. Live as if you are dying. Memento mori. Remember that you must die. Though it may sound grim, to the Stoics it was a call to live fully. Not merely to exist, not merely to endure, but to live deliberately. Death is not a threat. It is a teacher, a clarifier, a compass, a quiet advisor in the background of every wise decision, reminding us not to waste what cannot be replaced. Seneca reminded us that life is long if you know how to use it. Yet how often do we live as though time is infinite? We postpone our dreams, delay growth, defer truth. We say later to what matters, and yes, to what does not. Why? Because we forget the clock is ticking. Every day lost is gone, not just from the calendar, but from our legacy, from our potential, from the one life that is ours to shape. To live with death in mind is not to live in fear. It is to live with focus. It is to shed what is unnecessary. When you remember your time is limited, your choices gain weight, your actions gain urgency, your life gains clarity. You begin to say no to the noise and yes to what is necessary. You refuse what drains you, numbs you, or distracts you. You become honest about what you want, not later, not when conditions are perfect, but now. You start each day with presence, with reverence, with urgency, not anxiety, with gratitude, not regret. Each breath becomes a gift, each moment a question. Is this worthy of my life? The Stoic does not fear death. They learn from it. They stand beside it like a teacher, not a threat. It sharpens vision, clarifies priorities, and illuminates what truly matters. Death is not the end of power. It is the awakening of it. Remembering our mortality allows us to live with intention, to see each moment as significant. Each choice becomes a deliberate act, each conversation a contribution to legacy. You stop waiting for the right time and make now the right time. You stop chasing perfection and pursue purpose. You discard distraction and nurture what matters because it matters. Life gains meaning not because someone grants it, but because you claim it through choice, through consistent attention, through deliberate action. Each day you show up with purpose instead of drifting through habit. You reclaim your hours from triviality, from empty scrolling, from hollow obligations, anything that steals presence. You do not allow your life to leak away unnoticed. You guard it, guide it, and invest it where it counts. Death is not an enemy. It is a mirror, one that never lies, never flatters, never forgets. It asks the questions that truly matter. Are you living well? Are you aligned with your values? Are your days spent on what endures or what fades? It does not shorten life. It sharpens focus. It does not diminish power. It calls it forth. It does not take meaning away. It demands that you create it. It does not invite despair. It invites decision. Every day becomes another chance to live with intention, to aim higher, love deeper, and act truer. The point of life is not to stretch time, but to deepen it, not to avoid death, but to ensure that when it arrives, it finds you fully alive. Chapter 8. Power in Purpose. The greatest source of resilience is purpose. When you understand why you endure, the how becomes manageable. When you live for something larger than comfort or approval, you become steady, immovable, and clear in your path. You stop flinching at pressure. You stop fearing resistance. Difficulty is no longer something to escape, but something to endure for the sake of something greater. Purpose gives suffering a place. It turns hardship into a forge rather than a grave. The Stoics taught that to live well is to live in accordance with nature, not just the trees and skies outside, but the inner nature of reason, virtue, and duty. True alignment does not come from shaping the world to suit your moods, but from shaping your mind and actions so that you remain upright no matter what happens around you. To live well is to live with meaning, clear, chosen, deeply held meaning. To follow a moral compass rather than a worldly one. To live so that your choices, your words, and your character remain consistent with your principles, not with fleeting emotions. To seek alignment, not applause. Applause fades, but alignment endures. Without purpose, power is scattered, spent on whims, diluted by distraction, lost in indecision. With purpose, power becomes focused, concentrated like sunlight through a lens. It burns through fear, silences excuses, and creates momentum where there was only hesitation. Purpose gives endurance and clarity about what is worth carrying forward. What is your why? To become the best version of yourself? To serve something larger than your own desires? To honor principles even when it is difficult? To live in a way your future self will thank you for? To love without conditions? To build something that lasts? To leave a legacy of strength, clarity, and courage? Your why does not need to be flashy. It needs only to be real. Purpose gives suffering a reason. It turns endurance into growth. It transforms difficulty from punishment into opportunity, from burden into elevation. Preparation reframes every loss as training and every delay as deepening. That is strength. That is unlimited power. Not ease, but endurance. Not the avoidance of struggle, but the courage to face it for a worthy cause. When your why is strong, almost any what becomes bearable. Purpose transforms resistance into refinement. Obstacles become teachers. Failure becomes feedback. Pain becomes productive. Progress becomes personal. With purpose, you are no longer tossed by the winds of doubt. You are guided by an inner compass. You remember why you started. A life without purpose is like a ship without a rudder. It moves, but it lacks direction. It drifts with the current. vulnerable to every tide. A life with purpose, however, has aim, momentum, and meaning. It may face storms, but it does not lose its course. It sails with conviction, learns to course correct, and preserves its vision. Do not crumble under pressure. Calibrate. Find your purpose. Write it down. Speak it aloud. Refine it. Protect it. Let it shape your habits, guide your choices, anchor your routines, and influence your relationships. Let it hold you steady in chaos and drive you through uncertainty. Live it in quiet moments when no one is watching. That is where character is forged, where integrity is built. When purpose is internalized, your power becomes intentional. Not just instinctive, but deliberate. It becomes a tool, a force for impact, a reason to rise again even when the path is hard, especially when it is hard. Purpose does not merely help you survive difficulty. It teaches you how to honor it. Chapter 9. Endure, Transform, Transcend. The Stoic path is not one of comfort, but of mastery. Not mastery over others, but mastery over the self. Over false beliefs carried since childhood, impulsive habits born of fear, and self-sabotaging tendencies disguised as protection. The Stoic walks not to escape the world, but to master the world within. External chaos is inevitable. Internal disorder is optional. Through discipline, reason, and reflection, we can train the mind to remain steady. The Stoic conquers not through dominance, but through detachment from destructive thoughts. They choose clarity over confusion, meaning over distraction, and presence over panic. Endurance is more than survival. It is evolution, the steady transformation of pressure into power. It is not simply getting through pain, it is rising from it. Each trial you face leaves you altered, reshaped, carved into someone wiser, someone more deliberate. Adversity refines the soul, just as fire refines metal. It strips away the superficial and exposes the essential. It burns away ego, illusions, and excess, leaving what is real: discipline, resolve, clarity. But only if you allow it. Only if you remain present in the challenge and refuse to turn away from your own becoming. Only if you resist numbness and choose growth instead. Endurance is not passive. It is not clenching your teeth and bearing it. It is active engagement with hardship, staying long enough for insight to arrive, long enough for transformation to settle in. To suffer without reflection is wasted pain. To struggle without growth is stagnation in disguise. To endure is to ask, what is this shaping in me? What strength is being awakened here? What truth is being revealed? What virtue is being demanded of me? What part of my character is being forged in this moment? This is Stoicism. This is transformation. It is the art of turning wounds into wisdom and burdens into building blocks. Every bruise becomes a reminder of resilience, every scar a record of survival. You may not choose your hardships, but you always choose your response. That response is the birthplace of virtue. It is how you become more than you were, not in spite of pain, but because of how you met it, how you stayed with it, how you learned from it. The Stoic does not feel nothing. They feel deeply, but they are not ruled by emotion. Emotion is a messenger, not a master. It speaks, but it does not decide. They rise not by denying feeling, but by integrating it into reason, by translating it into clarity. They observe, they learn, they reflect, and they act with courage. They carry the lesson, not the weight. They remain unshaken not because they are immune, but because their inner structure is fortified. Their peace is earned. not given. Their calm is trained, not accidental. Their power is the product of consistent practice. Transcendence is not floating away. It is rising through fear, through grief, through doubt, through the trials that test not just patience, but identity. It is choosing to move through the fire and emerge stronger, wiser, more intentional. It is facing difficulty and allowing it to strip away what is false, leaving only what is authentic. It is not detachment from the world, but a deeper connection to the values that anchor you: courage, discipline, justice, and wisdom. These are not mere traits. They are lifelines in the midst of storm. Transcendence is the art of remaining grounded, even when everything around you trembles. It is growing stronger and more anchored with each challenge, not because the challenges cease, but because you stop forgetting who you are in the midst of them. It is facing chaos and saying, "You will not define me," and proving it through steady endurance, not words. It is meeting hardship and choosing to become light rather than ash, not by avoiding pain, but by letting it shape you into something that illuminates rather than crumbles. It is staying soft without breaking, strong without hardening. It is rooting yourself when the winds howl and the ground shakes. That is what it means to become unbreakable. Not that nothing touches you, but that nothing unravels you. Not that storms do not come, but that you do not drown in them. You learn to move through adversity without forgetting who you are, what you stand for, and why you began. Each breath taken in the face of resistance is a declaration of power. Each moment faced with grace is a brick in the fortress of your character. Strength comes not from what you avoid, but from what you endure and integrate into self-mastery. Every scar becomes a symbol, every setback a lesson, every fall fuel for growth. Hesitations become questions answered, truths uncovered, doorways to deeper self-knowledge. Each moment becomes proof not only that you endured, but that you evolved. You are becoming the person adversity tried to stop, and in truth, you already are. Now, you live it. Chapter 10. Unlimited power resides within. You do not need to search the world for strength. You do not need a sign, a savior, or permission. It has always been there. It was never given. It was built into you, planted in the foundation of your being, waiting to be uncovered, tested, and awakened through choice, reflection, and deliberate action. You have reason. You have will. You have the ability to choose, to change, to begin again, to move forward. Even when fear whispers or doubt presses in, you can interrupt the cycle. You can break free from patterns that once constrained you. You can reframe the past and redirect the future. The Stoics did not create tools. They reminded us of the ones already in our hands. They showed that what we seek has always been within reach. It only needs to be remembered, refined, and activated. You are not powerless. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are at the threshold of something rare, the path to self-mastery. The beginning is not weakness. It is potential. It is the moment when awareness turns into intention. It is the moment when you stop waiting for the world to change and realize that change begins within. True power does not start with dominance. It starts with decision. It starts with the choice to rise even when circumstances offer no invitation. The world may strip away possessions, comfort, or certainty, but it cannot take your mind unless you surrender it. It cannot govern your choices unless you hand them over. It cannot disturb your peace unless you allow it. The battle is not out there. It is in here, in your thoughts, your beliefs, your perceptions. What you guard shapes what grows. What you allow defines what you become. Even in limitation, you retain agency. Even in adversity, you retain autonomy. You have the power to reclaim focus, voice, and inner freedom at any moment. Unlimited power does not mean controlling outcomes or bending the world to your will. It means mastering your soul, governing your reactions, shaping your perspective, and aligning your life with principle. This is the foundation of freedom. From this alignment, everything shifts. The outer world may remain unpredictable, but your inner world organizes itself around clarity, discipline, and truth. From there, your life changes. Your relationships shift from dependence to genuine connection. Your actions move from reaction to deliberate influence. Your habits shift from impulse to integrity. Each aligned decision deepens your self-respect. Your future begins to form not by chance but by intention, shaped by the person you choose to become. When your soul is anchored, your life cannot drift. When your mind is governed by reason, your actions follow with precision, focus, and quiet strength. This is not theory, it is transformation. The discipline to remain true to your values, even when it is uncomfortable. The courage to reject what once controlled you. The clarity to cut through distraction and discern what truly matters. Living this way, you carry your power not with noise, but with undeniable presence. You do not need to justify it. You embody it. You become the example others seek when they feel uncertain. You become the mirror reflecting what is possible when principle guides action over convenience. You no longer react, you respond. You no longer flinch, you stand. You no longer collapse, you rise. Walk with courage, live with reason. Choose with strength. Speak words that build, not diminish. Think thoughts that empower, not drain. Let your presence remind the world that true power resides not in circumstance, but in how you meet it. Let your decisions declare your sovereignty, proving that fear does not govern your life. Principle does. Let your calm be steady, your boundaries firm, and your focus unwavering. Let your integrity anchor not only yourself, but those you lead and care for. The power is already within you. It has always been. You do not need more. Only less distraction, less hesitation, less doubt. Act like it, walk like it, speak like it, breathe like it, build like it, and above all, live like it.